Welcome to the Christina Loren Show, where speaking truthfully from the heart comes naturally, as opposed to a teleprompter loaded with tall tales from puppeteers attempting to control the narrative. On Thursday, 40 days after being anointed as the Democrat nominee for president, Kamala Harris finally braved her first sit-down interview. But oddly, she did not do it alone. She brought her security blanket, good old Waldo along, who for the most part sat there with this look on his face. And even with the controlled environment of a taped conversation with a friendly news organization, we still managed to see just how unprepared Kamala Harris is to sit down with our foreign adversaries on an international stage as the leader of the free world.
I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it. There's no such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces. And we had just had pancakes and, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle.
They did a puzzle. Hostile nations are constantly assessing our strength. And unless Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping prefer awkward small talk, our country could be in real trouble if she takes office, as she has claimed numerous times will, in fact, happen.
We are going to win this November. We are going to win this November. Yes, we will. Win!
May God help us all if that's the case. The fact that Kamala Harris has not been able to handle a sit-down interview on her own is downright embarrassing. And leaning on her male running mate is completely contradictory to her stance on female empowerment. It undermines the very movement she claims to be fighting for.
Well, I start from the belief that you can judge the status of democracies, judge the status of societies based on the status of women, and certainly based on the status of women and girls. And so if we want to measure how well we are doing, well, then let us take a look at how our women and girls in our societies, in our nations, how are they doing? And thankfully, on so many of the issues where there are disparities and inequities, the solutions don't require that much creative thought.
To date, Kamala Harris still hasn't held a single press conference, and legacy media outlets seem to be A-OK with her hiding in plain sight. They're completely compliant as she puts her Where's Waldo plan into action, diminishing the role of the Fifth Estate as an independent watchdog. If they won't hold her accountable,
the vice president's been taking questions from reporters who are covering her on the campaign trail.
The mainstream media is essentially rendering themselves useless, a choice that could ultimately put them out of business as more and more people turn away from the news that can't be trusted any longer and instead switch to platforms like X from Elon Musk. That's where many are going now for their main source of news. And most of the biased legacy news outlets are failing to scrutinize the inconsistencies in Kamala Harris's past and present statements.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
As her team makes a play for low information voters, those who are busy working, just trying to get by, raising a family, and they don't have the time that it takes to thoroughly investigate her record. And her handlers know that these busy Americans will take what she says at face value and vote accordingly. She doesn't even care if she's going to upset her base by going completely away from her radical leftist agenda. She will twist the facts and say whatever it takes to get elected, with no legitimate plan in place to back it up. So to gain a true understanding of who Kamala Harris really is, it's important to step away from the media propaganda machine and think critically about how 4 more years of poor policy decisions will impact the prosperity of this country. Because as we're bombarded with joy and vibes and the she's so brat summer, real American families are hurting.
About half of parents in the state report not being able to afford enough food or variety for their kids.
When it comes to housing being $1,000 more a month, there's just nothing that can be done. So I was about to move in with my parents when I hadn't found a place, and I kind of pulled out all stops and emailed local hotels and found this place.
Kamala has been thrust upon us without being voted in by the American public. She's like that unexpected bill that shows up when your wallet is already empty. The national debt has now surpassed $35 trillion because federal spending under the Biden-Harris regime is far exceeding taxpayer revenue. So we have to borrow the money that we're lacking to cover the difference. Excessive government spending has driven this debt up to record levels. And when you break it down person by person, it comes out to over $104,000 for every American citizen. And that doesn't factor in the 10 to 15 million new voters who freely traversed our wide open border and will be granted citizenship, Social Security, and Medicare if Kamala wins, skyrocketing the debt even further. In 2023, the U.S. hit the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling. But the Biden-Harris administration wanted to continue on with their reckless spending. So they struck a deal, effectively allowing the Treasury Department to borrow as much money as necessary to cover the nation's bills until the next deadline, which is closing in on us quickly. In fact, it's just 4 months away now, on January 1st, 2025. And it blows my mind that more people aren't talking about this, because with the national debt reaching a colossal $35 trillion, every day that goes by just on the interest alone, we're paying $2.4 billion. And every dollar of that interest will make institutions, individual investors, and foreign governments rich. But it will only hurt everyday Americans, severely limiting the amount of money that is actually available to secure a resilient country for future generations. Being recklessly irresponsible with our national debt now will exponentially hurt younger generations down the road. But Kamala has already made it clear about how she feels about the next generation.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Eventually, we're going to have to pay the piper. But as time marches on, and the national debt is not addressed head-on, we're being set up for financial failure. Now, most Americans know that Kamala Harris would never have won the Democratic primary if we were given the option to choose in a fair contest. But after thoroughly researching her history, and I've been at this for a few weeks now, I didn't just give this a broad brush. What I found is that many things were handed to her for the wrong reasons in her rise to success.
She's a witch, and she is a corrupt witch. She's been corrupt her whole life, and she her way to the top. Oh, Lord. They used to detail this witch in the LA Times with her sexual escapades. She's damn near everybody trying to get up. She used to be a frat hoe when she was at Howard. You know, LA Times ranked her out. I was out in LA, when she was. I can see this article. Before that, she got out, and they ran a thing to when she went to law school. Willie Brown, that was his mistress. They used to have cards. I heard about that, though. He got her a gig for 15 hours a week for $72,000 a year. And you have to understand that was 35 years ago. And then when they carried a thing where she moved up to 20 hours a week, she getting paid $120,000 for a part-time gig. And he bought her a 750i BMW.
Now, I'm not sure why Judge Joe Brown would lie about Kamala's past. He's got much more to lose than gain from doing so. After all, the mainstream media, social media, and Hollywood are all controlled by the Democrats. And anybody who takes a strong stance against the left is doing so at great risk. But I always try to seek the truth and look for multiple sources. And it turns out that Judge Joe Brown was not wrong. According to factcheck.org, Harris was 29 in March of 1994 when a San Francisco Chronicle columnist described her as Brown's new steady. At the time, Brown, who was then 60 years old and Speaker of the California State Assembly, had been estranged from his wife for more than a decade. And according to Snopes.com, another fact-checking website, as the State Assembly Speaker, Brown appointed her to 2 political posts, the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and later the Medical Assistance Commission. So Kamala was dating Willie Brown when she was in her late 20s and he was in his 60s. And he appointed her to 2 prominent positions. But you have to wonder, was she dating one of the most powerful politicians in California for love? Maybe, but considering how transactional the relationship has been described, it's more likely that she was dating him to get ahead in her career. And he's not the only powerful man that she's dated on her climb to the top.
Long before she met Doug Emhoff, she dated some prominent men, including in 2001, former talk show host Montel Williams. Back then, he was the famous one and had to introduce her to the paparazzi.
Kamala Harris. Kamala.
Now, the whole world knows who she is.
Indeed, we do. Now, normally, a woman's calculating dating choices would not really matter to me. I actually try to look for the good in all people. But Kamala is running for president on a platform that exploits women's reproductive rights, even though she has no biological children of her own. She is constantly making the case to young, highly influential women in this country that it's their right to choose, which feels misleading because she doesn't have the capability of fully understanding the gravity of the choice at hand. She's normalizing abortion to win a political contest. And just like the men who helped her climb that ladder of success, she's using Roe v. Wade as a stepping stool to get elected, without even taking a beat to acknowledge the traumatic impact that this choice often has on the mother, the father, and the child. If she is elected, many women will follow her example and put their careers first over having a baby, risking a deep sense of loss in the future. Infertility is an incredibly painful experience and one that I am all too familiar with. Before having my son Eli, I prayed for a child for years with no answer. And that difficult journey gave me deep empathy for those who are walking through the heartbreaking struggle. This is a pain that weighs heavily on many women because we were designed by God with a natural desire for children. And treating one of God's greatest gifts as a mere convenience is fundamentally wrong. The left has lied to us and linked this life or death decision to women's equality in a strategic effort to win elections.
Donald Trump wants to take our country backward.
No, he doesn't. So please stop saying that he does because it's deceptive. What's real is that Roe v. Wade gave women a sense of empowerment over 50 years ago. But now, it's become a political weapon used to manipulate votes. Its legacy has become much more harmful than helpful to women, with devastating consequences that few dare to acknowledge publicly. When Roe was decided back in 1973, the country operated under a very different set of norms and values than it does today. Smoking was still widely accepted in many public places, including hospitals, buses, and on school campuses, but a growing awareness of tobacco's health risks was beginning to challenge these norms.
Anybody mind if I smoke? All of a sudden,
I do.
Appears this very old man.
I do, Uncle Harry.
You do what, John?
Mind. I mind if you smoke. I mean, you did ask if anyone minded if you smoke.
Well, John, everybody says that as a sort of a courtesy. You know, before they light up.
Courtesy is very nice, Uncle Harry. I appreciate that. It's nice to know you wouldn't smoke if it's bothering somebody.
John, how is my smoking bothering you?
Bothers me too, Harry.
What is this? You guys kidding me or something?
I don't smoke. Why should I have to breathe in your smoke? Besides, it gives me a sore throat.
Smells bad while I'm eating, Harry.
It makes me cough. And Harry, the ashes on the carpet. Uncle Harry, we love you, but not your cigarette.
Well, thanks for telling me. I didn't realize.
Next time, tell them you mind very much if they smoke. It's a form of air pollution you can live without.
In the vibrant era of disco, bell-bottoms, and muscle cars, the birth control pill became newly available to unmarried American women in 1972, just 1 year before Roe v. Wade was decided. And at that time, contraception carried substantial stigma. Fast forward to today's America, and contraception now comes in a plethora of options, and it's widely accepted by society. Women now make up 47% of the American workforce, and our rights are reinforced by our vast contributions to the American economy. Today, women have secured an indispensable role in maintaining the nation's position as the world's largest economy. And we cannot pay off that $35 trillion debt without female workers. Nobody is going to take our influence or societal standing away from us. But Kamala Harris is craftily running on an outdated platform that promotes abortion under the guise of women's rights. And since she'll never fully realize what she's actually advocating for, she has no business taking such a strong stance on the issue. She's using it for personal gain and misdirecting young women to advance her political agenda. And what she says about Donald J. Trump is not true.
We'll stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans.
And this is what is true.
My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith.
Now, I know that this is a very difficult topic for many people to discuss, but I know where God stands on the issue, and the godly are as bold as lions, and I am with him. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This is just one of the many reasons why true Christians are voting for Donald J. Trump.
And what we're going to do is, for people that are using IVF, which is fertilization, the government is going to pay for it, or we're going to get or mandate your insurance company to pay for it, which is going to be great. We're going to do that.
President Donald J. Trump is now doubling down in his support of women who want to become mothers. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. I have been busy on the road a little bit lately, but getting this podcast to you is incredibly important to me, so look for more episodes. Also, feel free to subscribe and like on YouTube. And Instagram is where I post most frequently, so you can find out what I'm doing there. I'm going to start incorporating more interviews as well once I figure out which webcam is the best to get for my Mac. So still a work in progress. We are getting up there though. This is episode 9. I'm so grateful for you going on this journey with me, and I'll continue to keep you posted on whatever's happening. God bless you. Wishing you a beautifully blessed week ahead.